Welcome to What the Flick. Ben Mankiewicz, Christy, Lemire, Alonso, Duralde, Nomad Agity this week. A movie that is that people love.
Oh my God.
This is Richard Linklater's Boyhood, Alonso.
So this is an extraordinary movie. Just even the making of this movie is a great story. Richard Linklater decided to tell the story of a young boy growing up and to kind of shoot it in real time. So the film shot for 45 days, but those 45 days were spread out over the course of 12 years, where we see a young actor literally go from being a first grader to off to college, and the rest of the cast ages around him, and it's an extraordinary piece of work. Take a look.
Hey, stop! Put the barrier up!
I don't wanna be your hero. I don't wanna be a big man. I just wanna fight with
You guys ready to have some fun?
Yeah!
Yeah! Whoa!
Don't worry about it.
Looks like you can use the bumpers.
You don't want the bumpers. Life doesn't give you bumpers.
We have a new student joining us today.
Hey, dude. Welcome to the suck.
Mom. Have you been partying?
A little bit.
Oh, okay.
I don't wanna be a big man. I just wanna fight with
What do you want to be, Mason? What do you want to do?
And this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And it could have kept going. It could have kept going because you feel so immersed with these people. It's almost like a documentary. The realism of it and being able to watch him age, and the cumulative effect is so powerful. You don't realize it until the end, until he goes off to college. And it's just like, wow, you've grown up with him too.
Yeah, exactly. When his mom, Patricia Arquette, is sort of upset about him leaving the house, you kind of feel that too, because like you feel like you've been there for this life, you know.
And his I fear that his sister, who is almost as much of a star of this movie, it's mostly about him, but she's got 82% of the scenes that he does.
And who is she?
And she's his daughter.
She's Lorelei Linklater.
Yeah.
And she's great.
She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's really funny and really like she seems so. If she wanted to, I'm sure she perhaps could do a lot, but she is so ready to take the sort of.
She gives a good eye roll.
Right, and I mean the quirky indie. Funny girl,
Aubrey Plaza.
Aubrey Plaza is
kind of,
she seems like the natural successor.
I have a niece who is roughly the age that she is at the very end of the character is at the end of the film, and when this isn't a spoiler or anything, but you know, it's the kid, the boy's graduation. Ellar Coltrane is the actor's name. His graduation party, and they ask her to say something, and she just kind of goes, "Good luck." Like all ironic. It's like, oh my God, that is exactly what my niece would do. Like that level of putting everything in quotation marks. You know, it was so true. And that's just one of a billion moments in this movie that are recognizable and human. And one of the things that I love that Linklater does is he very subtly kind of weaves in references to, you know, technology or pop culture.
Where we are in time, Mark's time.
Exactly. So we know, because you know we're pretty much following from what, 90.
It's 2002.
2002 to 2013, basically, right? So yeah, so it reminded me of the Tales of the City books, where Armistead Maupin will do that, where just to kind of remind you where you are in time. When you read them late, you know, when you look back years later, you go, oh yeah, that was the Ninja Turtles.
But
that was, you know.
But it's tougher to do here because you got to know then what's going to matter in 2014. You got to know that. What is the 2008 reference?
Right.
Here, when you're shooting it in 2008, it's going to tell the story of this time when I released this movie in 2014.
Yeah, when people know what iPods were.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but also the Obama campaign. They're in Texas putting Obama signs in yards and yanking out the McCain signs.
So are we to believe that Ethan Hawke, who plays the father, and that was a really interesting character, that went in a totally different direction than you're led to believe it's going to go. So that was really terrific. But are we to believe that he's now conservative? Is that what happened at the end? I mean, he did marry a very. He does.
No, I think he's a dad.
There's a line from the brother
that
says, "You know, you're in enemy territory now." But did that mean?
Oh
no,
that means he's in the ex-wife's house. That's what that meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that. But like the asshole alcoholic dad,
The
right?
first
The
one.
first
The first one.
husband, the first one that Patricia Arquette marries to get them out of this horrible life of poverty. He's a drunk. He's an awful, abusive, terrible human being. But he's got a W magnet on the
right,
refrigerator. I found very telling.
And I mean,
A little
just the
jab
way
there.
they dressed that guy was so good. The belt and the
khaki shorts
tucked-in
and
polo
the guts.
shirts and
and the rules, and man, I mean, you just had to believe that Ethan Hawke's going to be a giant screw up. I'm not going to portray too much of it, but like when he's not, it's just like, but he's trying. Like it's a hard road for him, and he makes it. And I was very impressed by that performance and the way they structured the character.
They're all complicated. They all, they're all flawed. They all make bad decisions, and they all figure it out together. And you're so invested because you've been with them all this time. Go ahead. What were you
No,
gonna say?
Linklater is, I think one of our great American filmmakers of this generation, and so humane in terms of understanding people's foibles but not judging them for them, And there are these great little moments where Mason, who's the main character, gets these pieces of advice from places you wouldn't expect, like a teacher or like his manager at the fish restaurant or whatever. And it's actually the kind of stuff that sort of makes you go, oh yeah, it's people when you're young telling you, hey, don't be a dick, or like think about this or apply yourself to that make a difference. And there's a lovely scene later on with Ethan Hawke's new in-laws, who are older people and they live out in the country in Texas. And for the kid's birthday, they give him like a gun and a Bible, and
An engraved Bible.
An engraved Bible. And so many directors would be so snarky about that. And the scene is just like they're giving them with very good intentions. The gifts are accepted with good intentions, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just this sort of sweet kind of Texas moment. And I saw this movie at Sundance and adored it, and I had to see it again to make sure at sea level, to make sure that I wasn't nuts. And it's so great.
There's so many there's so many movie tropes that are, you think you're headed toward, and they don't do any of them. Not one. Everybody changed direction in a way that I didn't think they were. And I was so like that manager of the fast food restaurant wherever he's working is so great because he looks like Thomas Lennon, and you think he's going to act like that kind of a schmork.
Yeah.
And then he ends up being kind of lovely, and you're just like, he's still a dork, but he's
disarming.
But
he has things to say,
and he's a decent guy, and he cares about people, and he does care about this kid, and he likes the mom, and it's just there's this. But I thought that Lorelei Linklater, like that she had. I'm just going to go back to her because I thought what's Ellar's last name?
Ellar Coltrane.
Ellar Coltrane.
I got the Ellar part now. So that he was really good, and it's an enormous challenge.
And a kid cast at the age of 6, like that's a gamble.
Yeah,
who looks like Ethan Hawke as he gets older. Like that's the gamble. The DNA part's a trick.
You don't have any trouble believing that that's his kid. But she had, I thought, like most of the really emotional scenes. She had that great moment early in the movie where she fakes that he had hit her. Which was a great sister moment. She has a really nice moment of sort of respectfully yelling at her mother at a time when her mother needed to be respectfully yelled at. And I thought both of those were enormously challenging, and she sort of every time that moment came up, she totally stepped up.
Right. She handles the alcoholic dad very well. This reminds me a lot.
That was the third scene.
Yeah, she reminds me a lot. This reminds me a lot of Slacker. Like Slacker,
I was thinking about that, yeah.
In that he goes back to his roots a lot in the tone, in the shaggy kind of meandering pace of it, in the conversations that seem to go nowhere but actually reveal a lot about their characters in this place. This is a very Texas movie, as you point out. Slacker only could have been made in Austin at that point in time.
Right.
This is San Marcos and parts of Houston.
And a little Austin.
And a little Austin, and so it goes back to Austin, yeah. But it just it feels like a more mature Slacker, like Slacker with depth, Slacker with more ambition, which sounds like a contradiction in terms.
No. I know what you mean though. It's there's a great Peter Greenaway quote where he says that cinema is too rich to be left to the storytellers, and not that there isn't a story here, but there's not a plot in the traditional sense apart from growing up and getting older and life itself unfolding around
There's a
you.
lot of little plots that develop throughout, but then 18 minutes later they're resolved and you move on. And the transitioning, which could have been abrupt, because sometimes we're a couple of movements of 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah. No, it's a 1 year,
each.
a year at a time.
You see him every year.
But then there are transitions where I didn't even realize. Oh wait, we're a year later now. Because he hasn't changed that much.
I didn't realize it even now.
They're in a new house. There's a husband who's
It didn't
gone.
seem to me to be a year at a time. That's interesting. So I couldn't. But that
Yeah.
was so, it didn't matter. It's really,
Right.
it really, that is exceptionally well done.
And when there's a couple different husbands here.
Yeah.
When one is gone, like there's no big to do about it, with one of them. Spoilers, whatever. But like the transition just seems clear.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. You're like, oh,
fluid.
he's gone.
Like what he's
And that
established.
moment-
Well, they make such a big deal about leaving the first one that the second one just they don't have to
Right.
go there
And then
again.
when he,
you know?
when we learn what that guy does, because he's wearing a weird shirt, and he turns around and we learn what his job was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought that was for me, like a really great moment. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that guy.
That
was
explains
doing.
why he is
and
that
explains
person.
why, and I feel bad for him because he deserves better. He's a good guy, that guy, and he deserves better. And now he's drinking and I'm sure hates his job with a fiery passion.
And he's seen stuff and done stuff that
Yeah.
has tormented him.
Yeah, and he's
Right.
probably not dealing with that, and we're probably not helping him dealing with it enough. And
Yeah.
and it's just I ached for that guy, even though he had to go.
Yeah, they're
You
all
know?
complicated, really
Yeah.
flawed characters that you come to really, really care about. And then the knowledge that comes back to you over and over again as you're watching it of like, wow, we are watching them over a 12-year period of time for real. It washes over you with like poignancy and with power over and over again.
And this is the kind of idea that you can't believe nobody thought of before.
It's
I mean,
kind of like the Up movies.
yeah, well, I mean,
In one movie.
Yeah, documentary filmmakers do that. I mean, you see the kids in Hoop Dreams obviously go from like 8 to college age, but to do it in a narrative, it's so bold and risky because anything could have happened to those actors or whatever in the meantime. But beyond just sort of the gimmick of it, it's so well written and so well acted and so observant about just what growing up is like and the mistakes you make and what you learn along the way and who you can rely on and who you can't. And I fucking love this movie.
Let me ask one quick question. I have to assume this is very tightly scripted the way the before movies are, but it feels so loose that it feels improvised, right? I have to assume it was really tightly written.
Linklater said it was very, very much scripted.
Right,
yeah.
and that's the neat, tricky feat that he pulls off, right? Like with those before movies.
Makes it sound
right.
spontaneous.
That big fight, that big 30-minute fight at the end of Before Midnight feels like you're watching people in the moment tearing each other apart, and that's what's so cool about this is that you feel like natural, loose conversations are just happening with their pauses and their imperfections, but it's really tightly scripted.
But that's
clearly,
that's what I mean. I think that if it weren't tightly scripted, it wouldn't have felt authentic because it wouldn't have been because they'd have been on camera. Like it's an art. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being obvious, I
Sure.
suppose, but that's when the writing is great. Is when the pauses are in there and the uhs are in there and the. And you combine sort of what the artists, the actors are contributing to this incredible script, but like he means it to be that way.
Yeah. Well, numbers, please.
10. This is a great American movie, and I mean Bernie, Before Midnight, and now Boyhood. Like Linklater is on a roll.
Yes, 10 from me as well. Definitely one of the best of the year. Please go find it and don't be daunted by the running time. It will zip by.
Yeah.
I gave it a 9.5 because there's not enough sex.
There's kissing in the back of a station wagon.
Yeah, not enough.
There's an awkward dorm room encounter.
Bye.